What is going on, guys? Today we are talking about the 3 best marches for free-to-play players in Rise of Kingdoms going into 2024. So first of all, what we want to talk about is with free-to-play players, I think 3 marches is the absolute most that you should try to field in the open field, simply because your resources are going to be far too low, your speed-ups will be far too low, and you're going to have a tough time competing in Season of Conquest simply because of crystal technology. Like I said, the resource cost, and basically using all T4 is really going to make it a lot harder to be successful in KVK. So you want to make sure you're using the best possible marches in Rise of Kingdoms in order to compete the most in Season of Conquest. So first of all, I want to talk about what type of troops are going to be best for free-to-play players. And honestly, I really like having one of each, because that way you can train basically an equal amount of troops. You can make sure you're not killing off too many of one troop in rallies and garrisons. And frankly, free-to-play players, you want to be able to join rallies and contribute with deads. But honestly, you really don't want to have KVKs where you have multi-million troops that are dead, because you're probably going to be sub 60 million power anyway with all T4. And so killing off all your troops every KVK will basically cripple you for the next KVK. So you want to be a little more mindful with that. And so when we're looking at the type of commanders we want to use, like I said before, we want to use basically one of each march. That way you have a good balance, and that way you're not kind of too far into one type of troop. So for infantry, I have kind of changed my opinion on this. And the reason why is because I did recently expertise Luce for this KVK. And so I think the first march I want to recommend is going to be Luce and Scipio Prime. This is one of the best marches in the game, by far the best infantry march in the game right now. This trades absolutely phenomenal. If you get swarmed down, it trades great. If you don't get swarmed down, it trades great. Stays alive pretty long because it's pretty tanky, and it does tons of damage with the double AoE. So Luce and Scipio, one of my favorite marches in the game right now. You can run it with Luce or with Scipio primary. Personally, I like the Scipio primary better. The reason why I have Luce primary right now is because I actually run 2 infantry marches, and I have Guan Scipio with one, and I have Luce Alex with the other. But if I was only running 1 infantry march, it would be Scipio primary and Luce secondary. This is just a phenomenal march that I think everybody should have the ability to run in Season of Conquest. The second march I would recommend is going to be cavalry. And this one honestly is really tough for me to decide on, because I think you really have 2 different options with cavalry, and you can kind of choose which one you think is going to work best for you. Basically, the first commander I would say is going to be a must-have is actually Joan Prime. And the reason why is because the 2 marches I'm going to recommend both include Joan Prime. Joan Prime is a very versatile commander that is just absolutely phenomenal in the open field. You want to have her expertise because her force skill is just so good that it's worth expertising her. If you can get lucky and get 5-5-1-5, then maybe you could think about that. But having the Blessed as a 5 out of 5 is a must-have for the 100% probability. But the 2 marches with Joan Prime is going to be either Nevsky Joan, which I love, or it is going to be Joan and Hukabing. Those are really your 2 options for cavalry for running 1 march. And really the biggest difference between Nevsky and Hukabing, they are very similar commanders, but the difference is that Hukabing is going to last a lot longer on the field, whereas Nevsky is going to have a little bit more punch, but he's going to die a lot sooner. So that is kind of the trade-off you want to have. And personally, for free-to-play players, I would recommend having the march that is going to have more sustain. And so as hard as it is for me not to recommend going for Nevsky, personally, if I was a free-to-play player, the pairing that I would run would be Hukabing and Joan Prime. That is what I would run because, it's just such a good march. For Ruins, it is absolutely insane. This is actually what I run in the Ruins. I don't run Nevsky Joan, I run Hukabing and Joan. And so, having this march is just so good. And honestly, like I said, it's so hard for me not to recommend Nevsky because he is one of my favorite commanders in the game. But if you're only running 1 march as a free-to-play player, being able to sustain your march is just so important. And Hukabing's Autumn Wind Effect, which is going to basically heal yourself a ton. This is just such a good skill to have in order to keep yourself alive. And, being able to play in a murder ball successfully as a free-to-play player will also have a huge effect. And if you can do that well with Hukabing, your calves will basically never die, and you're going to get so much value from your Hukabing because he does a ton of damage, and he also recovers a lot of his healing as well, which will keep you in the combat longer. So this would be the cav march I would go for, is Hukabing and Joan of Arc. But like I said before, you could still go for Nevsky if you want the extra punch, but you will most likely die a lot sooner. Now, the last one I would recommend is an Archer March. Obviously, we're not looking at integration, we're not looking at leadership, we're looking at archers. And right now, with the release of Hermann Prime, I would say the pairing that I would recommend would be Hermann Prime and Zhuge Liang. This is by far the best option for archers. I just made a video about Boudica and why, honestly, if you already have Boudica, Hermann Prime is probably not a commander you should be investing into right now. But if you are starting basically from scratch, like if I had to restart, if I could reset a commander, I would 100% reset Boudica. I would reset Boudica and go full into Hermann Prime. That would be the first thing I would do, because Hermann Prime is better than Boudica, but not so much better that I'm willing to bench my Boudica and never use her again, because I'm only going to run one Archer March regardless. And for this video with free-to-play players, if you're going to run an Archer March, you are only going to be running one. And that is going to be Hermann Prime and Zhuge Liang, because it is just such a good march. And honestly, you could run either one primary. Personally, I would probably go for Hermann simply because he has a support tree. But you know, the skill tree is also really, really solid. You really can't go wrong with either. But you know, having Zhuge Liang and Hermann is just going to be phenomenal. I'll actually show you a report that we got here in the coalition with the Zhuge Liang and Hermann. And, you know, this is kind of just showing how strong Zhuge Hermann really is. And like I said, Hermann Zhuge could also be a really solid option as well, if you want more sustain in the open field. But if you want the more skill damage, then Zhuge primary will be the better fit. But like, just looking at this report is pretty crazy how well it traded. Obviously, the extra AoE damage that you're getting with Zhuge and with Hermann is phenomenal. The extra skill damage is great. And so you really can't go wrong with this march if you don't have Boudica invested into. And so with this video, if you are a free-to-play player, you should be investing in a Hermann for your Archer March and then Zhuge as your secondary. And a lot of people ask me like, okay, well, these are all Season of Conquest commanders, so what do I do in the meantime? And I would say that that really lies to the individual. And if you are someone that wants to be able to fight in KVK 1 through 3, and you want to be able to invest into KVK 2 commanders, you definitely can. But personally, if I had to restart the game right now, and I'm looking forward to Season of Conquest, I'm personally not investing into anything. I am hoarding all my gold heads. I'm saving everything for Season of Conquest. And then immediately, I'm going to max 2 commanders and have at least one amazing march to use. That's one way you could do it. Another way you could do it is have 2 marches with like a 5-5-1-1 on each, which honestly, as a free-to-play player in Season of Conquest, I would not recommend that, simply because it's just going to be too weak to use in the open field against, you know, Krakens and whales and really huge spenders that have all the commander's expertise. You're just going to get wrecked. So I would recommend only field a march when you are ready to field a march. Don't feel pressured to immediately field 3 marches. The reason why I gave you guys 3 marches is because eventually that's what you want to get to. But first, you need to find the commanders. Second, you need the gear. You want to make sure you have at least all purple gear that you're fielding in the open field as a free-to-play player. Otherwise, like I said, you will just get absolutely wrecked in the open field. So in conclusion, the 3 marches, just kind of give you guys a refresh, is going to be Scipio with Luce. It is going to be Hukabing and Joan Prime. And then finally, it will be Zhuge Liang and Hermann Prime. These are the 6 commanders that I would recommend that free-to-play players start to save for and invest for in Season of Conquest to get the best value possible. If you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like and subscribe. If you guys have any other opinions on this or other commanders that you think would be better fits for free-to-play players or things that have worked best for you, let me know in the comments below. I'd be really curious to see what you guys think. Thanks again for checking out the video. Have a great rest of your day.